Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another installment of Flyer Gonna Flyer. We got a good episode for you this week. 1 week, 5 days, trade deadline right around the corner. It's getting close, folks. Few trades happened around the NHL yesterday, but we're going to be talking about the Flyers. Nothing here yet, but a certain longtime Flyer, Scott Laughton, put out a pretty cryptic tweet on Friday night. Is there something into this possibly? Maybe also reminiscence his years here as a Flyer, because this truly could be the end of the Laughton era here. We're going to find out this week. Not only that, Matvei Michkov, he is taken off. This month's February Rookie of the Month, he's making a surge again. And then lastly, we'll talk about any other potential moves we could be seeing at the trade deadline. Sit back, relax, and get ready. Another installment of Flyer Gonna Flyer. Start trade now. Morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Flyer Gonna Flyer, episode 33 is upon you. We got a good one this week. No Eric this week. He is away, but he'll be back with us next week. However, I do have the seasoned veteran, Mr. Jamey Baskow, to my left. Jamey, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, good, man. Aloha mahalo. Everything's going good. Plan on going to Flyers practice tomorrow. So that's going to be good because I want to see Scotty, possibly one last time. Everything he's done for my career wouldn't be here without Scott Laughton, that's for sure. Anytime you need an interview, he's there. Anytime he wants to talk personally, he's there. John Tortorella, want to see, have a really good question to ask him. I think Flyers fans would want to tune in for that. I think that's going to be a good one. I think John's going to give a straightforward answer. So it's pretty candid. Yeah, I look forward to a good day tomorrow. But first off, a great show today.
Absolutely, brother. This should be a good one. So we're going to go over the week review a little later in the show. We're going to jump right into the Scott Laughton talk. So Friday, we got a very interesting cryptic tweet from Mr. Laughton.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Got a picture on Twitter Friday night. Him and a bunch of his buddies just sitting around. And I don't know, it's something similar to this. It wasn't exactly this picture, but it was kind of like a Last Supper reenactment type of picture. I got to say it was an absolutely brilliant picture. Whether this has merit to a potential future trade over the next few days, or whether he's just trolling because he's been in trade talks for the last 5 years, that was absolutely freaking brilliant by Watts. And, it just makes you think about all the years we've had this guy here. He's been a Flyer since 2012. Just think about that. He was a first-round pick in 2012. It's been one hell of a ride having this guy here. I know the team hasn't been all that good in his tenure here, not to his fault, but it really is just something you look back of when you have a player here that long, no matter how good they are or not. You look at this in the big picture of what they've done for the organization, whether it's been on the ice, off the ice, production-wise, what he's done for the community, for his teammates, the whole 9 yards. And Scott Laughton is the perfect representation of that, especially when all he does off the ice. He does a lot for children off the ice. I've seen him go to plenty full of hospitals. He does a lot for the LGBTQ too.
Oh, yeah.
Those who are involved, that a major advocate of that. So whether you agree with it or not, that's your decision. But I'm just saying, and he is someone who does a lot for people like that, just to make everyone feel welcome to the game of hockey. And, Scott has always been the definition of class. He's always been someone who has been able to, come to the building each and every day, put 110%, show what it means to be a Philadelphia Flyer each and every day. He plays with his heart, and he plays with the logo in front, not the name in the back, as a lot of hockey players do. But he is truly one of the guys that truly represents that. Jamey, what has a lot meant to you since he's been here?
Just exactly what you said. He's a Flyer. It's funny, Alex. I'll speak on your behalf too. I'm sure you get that question too from outsiders. What does a Flyer mean? The perfect definition, honestly, that I continue to give people is what Scott Laughton is. That is the definition of a Philadelphia Flyer. He's the exact representation of what that logo stands for. I mean, just like you said, I mean, the guy's classy as hell. And excuse my language about that, but it's the truth. I mean, so yeah, he does mean a lot. He does mean a lot to a lot of Flyers fans. You know, people were like, I don't understand why he means a lot. Well, that's because you don't know him and you haven't watched the game. You just don't watch Flyers hockey without looking at Scott Laughton. I remember the day I think back, you know, to the first expansion, you know, with the first expansion team, you know, and Ron Hextall protected Scott Laughton. And I remember that. I'll always remember Ron Hextall getting flack for protecting Scott Laughton. And I'll remember that to this day. And that's the question I'm going to ask him tomorrow in that locker room is how did he feel to be protected, to know that he was going to still, you know, be within the Flyers organization. I find it hard to believe that Pierre Bellemare would have been that selection, you know, would have been the guy, you know, that definitely would have been Scott Laughton. They would have selected Scott Laughton as, you know, the member. And here, all this would have never transpired within the Flyers organization if past Flyers general manager Ron Hextall didn't protect him from the expansion draft. I remember, you know, Hexy getting a lot of flack from everybody, from all angles and sides, because no one could believe that Scott Laughton would be protected. I got called out weeks before Scott Laughton was, you know, protected, saying that I was an idiot. I didn't know the sport of hockey and all this stuff. You know, when the Flyers protected Scott Laughton in the expansion draft, you know, that's just what happens, you know, but lo and behold, Scott Laughton is here and he's turned into a fan favorite, you know, and for good reason. Flyers fans are one of the smartest fan base in hockey. They know good players when they see it. And that just doesn't represent the good on the ice. That represents the classiness and good off the ice. Like Alex said, the guy is the first one at a hospital. He's the first one in the community. There's a car accident. Scott Laughton's stopping to help, you know, said people. You know, that's just the guy who he is. I can't speak enough of who he is. Why? Because you know him a little bit personally, and I'm happy to know him a little bit. You know, might not know him all the way, but I know him a little bit, you know, and the guy is just a stand-up class act, and that's why he's garnering so much attention. Has garnered so much attention for the past few years, you know, and he has meant a lot to this organization, you know. So what would be the epic troll, like he said yesterday, is if he wasn't traded. Imagine if he wasn't traded and everyone's like, oh, man, I don't understand. People will freak out. You know what I mean? That's the epic troll. And that could very well happen. Maybe that's what it is, you know. Maybe I honestly believe it's the end of the era, though. I for some reason, this feels a little different than how it's been in the past. I feel like there's too much smoke going around. Everyone has a source. I have sources. Alex has sources. We're all being told, you know, different various things. At this time of year, you have to break down what's true and what's not. It could just be a smoke screen for the team to get it out there, you know, and pull up the, you know, the great value, you know. So these could all be smoke screens, but it's great that Scott Laughton did his own smoke screen. And from what Laughton said, it was created by Eric Johnson. Eric Johnson was the ringleader behind, who has turned out to be amazing, especially like doing this stuff. He's so candid. I'd re-sign him another year. You know, that's how much I feel of Eric Johnson, because
I've re-signed Eric Johnson for the
dude. Every time he's like doing a photo bomb, doing something crazy. He's turned in to be a great Flyer, and not great because he's a great player on the ice. He gives solid minutes, but he's great because it's just funny. I mean, like, how you need this in sports. You need to, you know, especially when the Flyers are in a lull. Eric Johnson's there doing a photo bomb picture, and you just laugh and smile. If you're having a bad day, you look at Eric Johnson doing something crazy. You know what I mean? That's what I like, you know, and I'm sure a lot of others feel the same way. I mean, you know, these are tough times, especially in the winter months. You know, mental health is a big thing. You know, there's a lot of depression, you know, for good reason. I mean, it's always cloudy and dark, but Eric Johnson tries to make light of a situation. So if you ever, you know, get to that moment, just pull up an Eric Johnson video and look at the craziness that he does. It'll definitely bring a smile to your face for sure. So me, I'm all about resigning Eric Johnson anyway, just because of that, because it makes it light, you know. But you know, circling back to Scott Laughton, the guy, I just feel like Washington is that team to look for. I think they're a sleeper, but I think that the Flyers are going to do Laughton right. Laughton right would be moving him closer to home, like New Jersey, you know, the Devils being involved, or Washington, which because they will do him right. The relationship that he has with Danny Briere and Keith Jones, they're not just gonna throw him, oh, okay, here, we're gonna send you across country out west so you can't be with your wife and kid. And it's a little difficult because it's harder to uproot when you factor in a child. It's harder to just uproot, and it's harder to just uproot his wife too. Chloe, all that he's done for this organization, they're going to do right by him, just like they did to Claude Giroux. I bet you, even though he doesn't have a no trade clause, Laughton has given them a set of teams. I'm sure of it. Hey, this is if it comes to that, these are a few teams if they're interested. These are the teams I'd like to go to. And I'm sure Toronto is on that list because they're sort of closer to home as well when you're talking about going all the way out west or something of that nature. So I'm sure that there's a set of teams that Scott Laughton has, selected as if these teams are involved, can you please possibly move them, closer to home, especially with Chloe's situation that just happened, losing his father-in-law. He needs to be there for his wife as much as possible, more now than ever. If anyone's lost a parent, it's very difficult and stuff. So he definitely needs to be there for her, needs to pick her up, when she's feeling bad, because she's going to have her moments. And it's just going to happen to spur the moment. Trust me, from experience, it just happens. Even if you look at outside and something, you see a cardinal or something will bring a tear to your eye, or something of that nature. He's going to have to be there for his wife. So they're going to do him right. That's for sure. But this would be an epic, circling back, it would be epic if this Last Supper was created because he won't be moved. But I just, again, I feel like it's a little different this go around. But, I just want to say thank you, Scott Laughton, for all that you did, all that you've done for personally for my career. I appreciate you very much, and I appreciate your family. I appreciate your cousins. I appreciate your own, the whole 9 yards. Like, you're really the definition of a class act for sure.
That was awesome, Jamey. Hell of a speech, man. He and that just shows the type of impact a player can have on just not a team, but an organization, and just from personal relationship as well. I can't relate the same. I've never personally met Scott, but I know just based off of reading stories how good of a dude he is. So, I want to see him succeed wherever he goes. I'd love to see him compete for a cup, or maybe he does stay here. Who knows? But as you mentioned, it just feels like this time there's so much more smoke. There's so much more traction in these rumors. There's a lot more push. There's a lot more teams that are being brought up, whether it's the teams you mentioned, Washington, New Jersey. New Jersey's been hunting for a center. Numerous reports. So that team makes a lot of sense, and they're right down the road. Washington, as you mentioned, I'm not 100% sure how much they would want to mess with their chemistry right now because they are the top team in the East. That's been reported, I believe, by Pierre LeBrun. But that is still a team that could use maybe a good solid 3C with some real leadership that can help push this team. I mean, you've got a lot of it already in Ovechkin and Carlson and guys like that, but it never hurts to have another good bottom six leader who can really give a push like that and show his experience. Toronto, as you mentioned, just seems like a glove fit. Like, that's an organization that looks like they're looking for some center help. A guy who can play 3C minutes and maybe in a pinch, God forbid an injury happens for a limited time, even some 2C minutes. And I feel like Toronto could use that. They could use a guy who has some grit, leadership, and balls like that, especially since they've changed head coaches and Craig Berube. This team feels like they've got a different spark on both defense and goaltending. So a guy like Laughton, who plays 100%, plays with his heart every single game with his physical style, always defends his teammates, always tries to uplift and make better the people around him, whether it's on the ice or off the ice. A team like Toronto makes a lot of sense. Maybe the team they played last night, Winnipeg, that one might be a little far out of the range of where he would like to go. But that's another team that does make sense, at least on paper. They could use some bottom six help as well. The center or the wing. That's a team that I've heard a lot of traction with as well. Those are four definite teams.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking for maybe a wild card team, I could see Detroit maybe making a call. That's a team that has a lot of cap right now.
That's close. That's close to home. That's not too far. That's not too far.
Exactly. Not ridiculously far. It's a team. I think they're going to have about $21 million in cap once they put they had one guy that's going on LTIR. I completely forgot who it was. But
Cop. Their center Cop, yeah. That's a great that's a great team because the Flyers are hunting for him too. So that's great mention. Great mention there.
They're in the wild card 2 spot right now, and maybe having that extra leadership for a team that has a lot of youth. I mean, I know they have Patrick Kane still there, and Vladimir Tarasenko. They just added this offseason. They do have leadership and cup experience, but those are 2 guys a little bit on the older end that can't quite maybe do what they used to do. Maybe a guy like Laughton who could give some good middle, mainly bottom 6 presence could help give that team a little bit of a bolster, not just on the ice, off the ice as well. Another position there that looks like that could maybe work out. There's a lot of teams that do make a lot of sense in this instance. Where or if he even does move in this instance, I'm not 100% sure. I think if I had to put a percentage on, I'm going to put it at about 70. I think that, like, as we have been hammering this entire episode on Twitter, there's just too much smoke right now. I think that based off of this, I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a Claude Giroux-esque type of leaving. Like, they're going to let him play his last couple games here just to honor his respect. I mean, his wishes of, playing his last few games here. The Flyers have a home game coming up Tuesday against Calgary. Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost will be in the building. So maybe it'll be a cool time to say that his goodbyes even to them when they get here. And maybe his goodbyes to the fans when they're here too. I have a feeling if he is moved, it's going to be sometime like Wednesday or Thursday. It'll be close to the end of the deadline. I think he does get that last game in the Farg for sure. Just as a fond farewell, as we had an episode named when Frost and Farabee were traded, coincidentally enough. But yeah, it just seems like this is it. So it's a lot for everything you gave this organization. The teams, thank you, but the teams that are knocking on the door with a lack of potential center help out there and the amount of teams looking for center help, I think someone's going to crack and give Danny that potential first-round pick that they're looking for.
Oh, they will. They will. They will. I just want to mention that, Alex has really good sources within the Devils organization. So I want to throw that out there. So, anybody that's looking for, intrigueness or, what the Devils may be, what the Devils, are possibly doing around the trade deadline, look for Alex's tweets and give him a follow because Alex has definite good ties within the Devils organization. And I can tell you this, the Devils are definitely in the mix for Scott Laughton services, and that comes directly from Alex. So, and I trust it.
Yeah. So, I mean, another guy who doubled down on this, Anthony Sanfilippo also mentioned the Devils too when the tweet first came out on Friday night that's a team that really has been circling around him possibly. Now, it makes you wonder if, since it is an in-division team, do they maybe bolster up the price a little bit, or do they do a lot more good and be like, okay, listen, well, we want to do you well. Is it what I'm looking at, they're going to get the first round pick? Maybe they get a second and maybe a B+ prospect or something like that. There's a lot of possibilities of what the return could look like if Scott Laughton is indeed moved in the next couple of days. Yeah. Jamey, what are you looking for? Who are some names that you would like to see them potentially get returned for moving Laughton?
I mean, I don't have specific names because it's kind of hard. Because when you're asking, the Flyers have been asking for a first, and no team has ponied up for it, or else he would have been dealt. That's for sure. By now, last trade deadline, I'm sure they didn't get a first round pick, or else he would have been dealt. Their teams just aren't meeting the wants of the Philadelphia Flyers organization for good reason. I mean, Scott Laughton is coveted by many teams, but last year's draft stock was a good one. This year's was good, and now all of a sudden that people aren't calling it as high. So teams are a little more likely to pony up a first-round pick of this year's draft class. Maybe not next year's, because I heard next year's is even better than this class. So, that goes up and down. So, but it's funny that usually when you trade within the division, you're not just trading that particular, player. You're giving more up. So it is funny that you mentioned that, because I could definitely see, a prospect coming back in return. And it's not going to be a high-end prospect. It'll be, a prospect that is looking for a change of scenery type, prospect. For instance, I'll throw one out there, like an Elliot Desnoyers. The sky was the limit for this guy. Under John Tortorella's first year, I think Flyers fans may forget this, but he actually was on the bubble to make the team. Remember, he was one of the last cuts, and he had an excellent preseason. And, John Tortorella really felt bad for cutting him. And it was like, go back, get back, improve. That was John Tortorella's first season as a Flyers head coach. And then from there, he just spiraled out of control. I don't know. So, he might be looking. This might be a change of scenery. That's the type of prospect, when Alex talks about a prospect possibly coming back in return. That's the type of prospect that the Flyers will get. It's not going to be this glaring prospect. The Flyers wanted Fraser. What's his name? Fraser Minton from Toronto. And they were unwilling to part with him, and plus for good reason. I understand why. When you're talking about that, Fraser Minton, he might be part of the future for Toronto. They're going to be against the cap here, as most really good teams are, contenders. They're typically against the cap. They're going to need that cheap cap, room for him, possibly. So, that you're not getting that type prospect, a grade A type prospect, maybe not even a B+ prospect. You might be getting a C+ D prospect, back, a project prospect, like an Elliot Desnoyers, who may scratch the surface, he may not. Remember the Flyers, I go all the way back, Ronnie Attard, was traded, around October, November-ish for a defenseman that no one knew. From the Oilers organization, Benjamin Gleason. That might be a type of prospect that you're going to be getting back in return. So, to be honest with you, Alex, I don't know, but you are right. I'll give you this. You're very right when you say usually when you typically trade within the organization, it's not going to. So if they trade with the Devils, if they trade with Washington, it's not just going to be that first round pick. It'll be something will be attached, like maybe a 5th, maybe a 6th round pick, something of that nature, maybe a 5th round prospect, maybe a 6th round prospect. That's typically what's going to be the return.
Yeah, for sure. I think at the end of the day, another name I was looking at in Toronto, maybe Easton Cohen. He had a bit of a rough World Juniors, so that's another name I'd like to potentially look at. I was trying to do a quick gander on some of the Devils prospects. One guy I looked at that might stand out a little bit. He's got some size of Nolan Fute. Maybe him. There's some names out there for sure. So I'm definitely curious. I think at the end of the day, it'll be something similar to what you said. Maybe a C+, B- prospect in a second if they don't get the first. But if they do get the first, I expect it probably this year. That's why Detroit does make some potential sense to me. If it is 2026, I'd be elated. Another interesting trade idea, maybe even you move a lot in one of your first this year for maybe your first next year, unprotected first next year, and see how that works, just to give you a little more to work with in next year's draft. Who knows? There's a lot of ways that this could potentially be approached. I think Franco, one of my Twitter followers, put out a pretty cool idea with that. I was like, that's something I hadn't even thought about. Maybe swapping one of the first this year and add Laughton and maybe get a prospect in a first next year. So I'm going to be honest.
That is possible, because when you think about it, if the Flyers want a 1C, the easiest way for them to obtain a 1C would be offering an RFA. Throwing numbers out there for an RFA. So if that's the case, you can't use the RFA of this year's draft. So it can't be a 2025 first round pick. So when you're throwing numbers out there, anything above, what is it, 8.59 million, you get 3 first round picks. So that could be, they obtain one from the Scott Laughton for a 2026, and that goes to, say, I'll throw a name out there, Marco Rossi. So if Minnesota can't match, that first round pick now goes to Minnesota. So that's a way to, hey, here's another first round pick, get it out of the way. You could give them your 2 firsts for 2026 and then a first for 2027. And by 2028, they have their own first, back, so that's the third. Yeah.
When you do, are you talking about an offer sheet?
Yes.
Yeah. So in an offer sheet, the draft picks you give up have to be your own.
Yeah, I think he's right on that.
I'm right on that. You have to be your own.
Oh, okay. So that's incorrect.
You probably have to give up this first and the next first or something like that. But there's going to be, I think that it would be a little bit different than that. But I definitely think you'd have to give up at least 26 and 27s first to consider something like that for sure. But
yeah. Oh, yeah. That's yeah. With that being the case, yeah. It makes sense. So that's a way to recoup a pick. So that's kind of cool. In the same token, that'd be a way to recoup, the first round pick that you're giving, that you'd have to give if Minnesota can't match, that particular offer sheet. So that still makes sense in the same token because they would recoup the pick that they have to send to Minnesota.
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else you want to add on Laughton? Maybe we can move on a little bit to some Michkov talk.
Yeah, let's get the Mitch.
So Matvei, our awesome rookie, won the February Rookie of the Month after he absolutely exploded this last week to pretty much end up winning the prize. 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 total points in 7 games. In the last now 4 games, he's had 8 points since the return from the 4 Nations break. He has been an absolute tear. You go back to that Oilers game, he had a goal and 2 assists. Then you go to the first Penguins game, he had 2 apples. The second Penguins game, he had 2 goals and an apple. And then yesterday against Winnipeg, he had the shootout winner on. Oh my God, was that an absolutely filthy move he put on Killer Hellebuck? We'll talk about that a little later. But Matvei Michkov is suddenly finding himself right back into the Calder race after what was a pretty struggle fest of a January. After that much-needed break, it looks like he has finally found his game again. 19 goals, 25 assists in 59 or 60 games played. I'm blanking on the exact number, but he has been on an absolute tear as of late. What do you think of Michkov's resurgence, Jamey? Do you think the break has had some extra help? Do you think it's maybe just the line that he's been put on with Couturier and Tippett? Is it a mixture of both? Maybe it's the ice time that he's been getting. What do you think?
I think that John Tortorella really knows what he's doing with Matvei. I think he knows that, he has to limit his ice time because I think it makes him stronger and makes him, have more energy. I think that, it's taken its toll on him. And in an 82-game season, it's easy to say, oh, they should be able to play 82. They're athletes or something of that nature. No, he needed this break to recoup. That's let's get that one out of the way. He definitely needed the break. He's definitely needed that time off. I don't care, what these guys are athletes, but they're also human beings in the same token. He's not used to playing any near over 42 games in a single season. He's just not. And when you're factoring in 40 more games, that's a whole nother season for him to play. So he's going balls to the wall for 42 games. Imagine having to go balls to the wall for another 40, which is almost another full season for him. That's a lot of games to be played, he's a human being. He's not used to that. Now he knows he's got his feet wet. He knows what to expect next season. I expect even more power, next season. But John Tortorella is right. He's sheltering him. Why be more effective? So he's limiting his ice time, giving him more energy, saving his energy, saving that spunk if they go into overtime, saving that spunk if they go into a shootout. And I've got to say, that turnover yesterday would have been the same turnover against, Crosby. Noah Cates saved the day with that glove. I gotta say that, but again, Michkov will learn. He won't make that mistake 3 times. I guarantee it. That turnover is eating him up. Even though he scored the shootout winner, I bet you if they interviewed him last night, he would single out and say, I need to be better. I can't have that same turnover. That's just the type of player. And I like that I like that. That's what I want to hear, something like that. So yeah, Michkov is definitely back in the Calder conversation for good reason. That goal that he scored in the shootout is against the best goalie, the best goalie in the NHL right now, Connor Hellebuck. That was a hell of a goal. And to go in tight like that, how many times have we seen the Flyers players in years past, just shoot it into the pad because they can't lift the puck? They finally have a potential superstar lifting a puck high and tight, top shelf for Mama Hides the Cookies. That was a damn tough goal. That is something that Flyers fans have craved for years. That's the type of goal scorer. Flyers fans aren't accustomed to that. They're just not. No one is. We haven't been like that since Eric Lindros. He was the last one that could score high and tight like that. Maybe John LeClaire. But Jeff Carter probably would have shot it high and wide. No offense for Carter, but to me, the Flyers fans just aren't accustomed to that type of skill. Go from forehand to backhand like that and lift it top shelf. That was a perfectly placed. Connor Hellebuck is probably still shocked. He probably went that high, especially in tight. I mean, he was probably like an inch away from his pads. Not accustomed to that. So that was a beautiful goal. Nothing more you could say to that. I'm just, I had to go take a shower after that goal. That's how much we done. That undressed. I'm sorry, but that was just like, holy smokes! I got real hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no kidding. It was the fact that it looked like he's faking shot, and he makes Hellebuck move just enough, and then he just so swiftly kicks it over to his backhand and elevates it over on the top corner. That was so gross to do a move like that, all in one motion, to have that type of fake shot kick over to the backhand and just make Hellebuck get completely undressed, and all in the span of about a second. It's incredible.
Insane, man.
How good his hands were on that play and how good his hands are in general. He is such an underrated deker that people don't give him enough credit for. Michkov is known for how good of a shot he has and how excellent his hockey IQ is. He's not the fastest skater in the world. I think me and you and almost every Flyers fan can absolutely agree to that. But he makes up for it with how damn smart he is. He sees plays before they manifest, and he turns them into something. It's absolutely incredible how
crazy.
The pass he made earlier this week to Sean Couturier, that I think it was in that first Penguins game.
No one's used to it. No one.
I think it was that Oilers game he made that. It was last week. Last Saturday, that pass he made to Sean Couturier, where he is on like the top of the friggin' face-off circle, and he just sees him cross ice and just puts it into a slot probably about that wide. And he just pinpoints it perfectly. Couturier still almost didn't score. The goalie got a piece of it. But
crazy.
That was so damn wide open that he did score. But it was such a phenomenal pass. His vision is just out of this world.
Insane.
19/20-year-old. It's absolutely incredible. And then we're watching this guy here too. Some of the plays he made. Now, does he still have his defensive deficiencies at times? Yes. You're going to take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit on the second game against Pittsburgh, his judgment on that play when Konechny is going in for the forecheck, I believe it was on either Malkin or Carlson on that play. His judgment could have been better. I would have probably told him to stay back at the blue line just in case if Konechny got beat. It led to a 2-on-1. Malkin gets the game-winning goal. It's fine. It happens. You're going to take the good with the bad because he's a rookie. And he's going to make those type of plays here and there. But that's the whole point of the learning experience with him.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see the plays that he makes, the absolute beauty of a tuck into the net in that second Pittsburgh game, where that absolutely sent Blomqvist off of his rails, breaks his stick, throws a tantrum, slams the bench door. He lost his mind, and Sully ended up pulling him. And it's like, oh, my God, Matvei just absolutely made this guy lose his absolute mind.
Crazy. Insane.
Then the Hathaway hit, which is something I want to bring up, by the way. I am shocked that was not a major and Amama didn't get suspended. I do think that wasn't a hit to the head directly. I will say that was a shoulder-to-shoulder hit. And if the hit itself was happening when he had the puck, I wouldn't have had that much of an issue with it. But the principle of the matter was him interfering with him 3 seconds away from the puck, hitting him like that and causing him to smash his head off the ice like that. That's inexcusable. That's the aspect of this that makes it dirty. It wasn't the hit itself. It was the principle of how late that hit was. About 3 seconds, no exaggeration, later, after Hathaway puts a clean hit on Nola Chari, and then Obama comes in, whatever the hell his name is, smacks him in center ice like that. And
It was a bad hit.
His head off the. I thought that was a dirty hit from that perspective.
It was. It's because it was a dirty hit. Yeah, it definitely was. That's for sure.
The fact that it was only called a 2-minute minor, it wasn't 5-minute major for interference, was absolutely mind-numbing to me. And the fact that he can get at least a game or two, probably I would have said about a 2-game suspension personally, just because it caused injury. And that's the principle of an interference causing injury that late. That's the big picture in this. This is what a lot of people don't fail to realize. But anyway, back to Michkov. He responds on that penalty, funny enough, with an absolute strike. Yeah. That was a beauty. And then that first game against Pittsburgh, one play that he really made that was so underrated was, I don't know who it was he pickpocketed on Pittsburgh on that 6th goal, but that tic-tac-toe between him, Couturier, and Tippett after he made the back check, pickpocketed someone in the offensive zone to lead to pretty much a 3-on-0 in front of the goalie. Absolutely nothing you can do there. And that 6-1 annihilation on Tuesday, that was one of the best defensive plays I think he's made all year too. But yeah, he has been on a tear. It's good to see him find his game. I think personally, it's been a little bit of everything. The 2-week rest really helped him. It was something that he needed just to not just reset him physically, but reset him mentally. Yeah. I think from what I saw, he went out to Dubai or something like that for about a week or
Dubai.
so.
Yeah, Dubai. Mm-hmm.
Go have some fun, get away from hockey. Sometimes doing something like that, not thinking about the game, just to reset your mind, helps reset your focus. Because it not only does it give you a hard reset, but eliminates a lot of some of the negative tendencies that you were doing beforehand instead of trying to fix them by doing it over and over and over again. It's like working out. If you keep pushing your muscles to work out without any rest, they're going to eventually give in fatigue and your body's not going to be able to handle it. You reset the mind and you work out the mind like that. You give it a chance to reset and heal. You see what you get right now because his vision has been back to A+ form. So, it's been great to see that. Michkov looks like he's back to form. And, and I think playing in a line with Sean Couturier has really helped him too. I know Coots isn't anything what he used to be in his prime, but he still has the hockey IQ. He still plays a good defensive style. He's obviously not that quick anymore, but that's fine when you have a speedster like Tippett on your outside. So a good two-way defensive forward like Couturier, I think, has really helped him. And one cool thing on a tweet that you personally mentioned that I absolutely love that he did is Couturier pulling Michkov over and talking about some of the things that he was having issues with. I thought that was awesome. When you look at something like that at the end of the day, it's cool. It's great because sometimes the coach can't say the things like that. So having a player resonate, it can really help.
Yeah. Well, Alex, I'm gonna have to head out right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a bit of an emergency.
Yep.
So I gotta
understand, man. So listen, do what you got to do. You have a good day. Good having you on the show.
Thanks to the fans. You guys are amazing. You ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you all. And Alex, always good talking.
Good talking, man. Hope everything is well.
Stay in tune this week. There's going to be a lot of happenings. I presume that Noah Cates possibly could be re-upped before the trade deadline commences. I just want to put that out there. And I think a reason to trade Scott Laughton is because they're going to sign Alex Bump to an ELC when his season concludes for Western Michigan. So I think that offers up another space there, and he would be a player that could be part of the playoff push, I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of early breaking news from Mr. Jamey Baskout. The Flyers are potentially closing in on an extension with Noah Cates, one of their RFAs there. So keep an eye on that potentially for the trade deadline. Definitely a note to have. But Jamey, awesome having you on the show again. We'll see you next week. Take care of what you got to take care of, brother. I'll wrap things up over here.
All right. Appreciate you all.
So with Jamey being gone, we're going to go right into the week ahead. and week prior a little bit. So that'll just give us a wrap up for Michkov.
I'll try to help.
Just,
I'll do my best.
You'll do your best. That's all right. Thank you, Mr. Director. So Flyers had 3 games this week, and then we'll jump into next week's games. Home and home against Pittsburgh. Absolutely drubbed them the first one, 6-1. In my opinion, was one of the 3 best games of the year. Between that, the Anaheim game, and a drubbing they had at Buffalo in December. They completely dominated top to bottom. They also had another game they smoked Edmonton in right before that. But game that they had control of top to bottom. Pittsburgh was played absolutely terrible. It honestly looked like teams in 2 different leagues out there. Philly completely controlled pace for all 60 minutes. You know, Michkov had a goal and 2 assists. Obviously, the Tippett and Couturier both were excellent in that game. All 3 of them came out +5. That line was absolutely dynamite top to bottom. I believe Couturier had his 200th career goal in that game. So round of applause to Coots on that. But yeah, the team just kind of dominated play top to bottom from the beginning to end of that game. So it was great to see. Offensively, they had probably about 70% of the game in Pittsburgh's end. It felt like Pittsburgh just couldn't clear the puck. The goaltending was abysmal. That was just one of those games where utter domination, where the opposition really couldn't do anything right. Second game, that would hurt a little. So the home and home goes back to Pittsburgh. Flyers jump out to a 3-0 lead. It feels like they left off exactly where they left off at home. They had outscored now the Penguins up to that 3-0 lead, 9-1 in that home and home. And then the wheels kind of came off. Pittsburgh changes netminders. And I don't know, something kind of sparked in the Pens. They started really gaining play in that towards the end of that second period. They got 2 goals in under a minute to get it to 3-2. Then the hit on Hathaway, as I talked about earlier, that I thought was absolutely gross. The hit itself wasn't dirty. I was pissed off about it at the beginning of the night. I threw it in our group chat screaming, "Oh, this is bullshit. This guy deserves 5 games." But then as I cooled down, I'm like, okay, let's look at this with a clearer head. Was dirty. Definitely dirty. I still believe it was suspension worthy. I don't think it was as bad as the game hit on Paling in the Isles game, but this was dirty for the sheer fact it was late. It was the principle of the matter, and it led to Hathaway getting injured. You don't hit – if he makes that hit with Hathaway having the puck, I don't mind it as much. I might at most call for a charging penalty for 2 minutes because that would have been just an unfortunate play. But as I mentioned, it is the principle of the matter of you hitting a guy in open ice without the puck for that long of time. It wasn't a bang-bang play like he passes the puck and he gets hit. No. Hathaway lays a hit on someone. He goes around in like a sideways C and then gets laid out by Obama. Like, you can't do that. Whatever the guy's name is. That is what makes it dirty because it led to injury.
I think it's Imama.
Imama. Okay. Imama. You can't do that. You can't do that. I personally was shocked that the DPOS, who I have actually thought has been pretty good this year, has finally showed their follies a little bit on this. I think that should have been a 2-game suspension personally, but somehow it's not, despite Hathaway being concussed now, because he smacked his head off the ice like that. Maybe, again, they thought the principle of the hit wasn't that. He didn't get fined, which shocked me. But, it is what it is. So back to the game itself. Pittsburgh, after the Flyers scored to go up 4-2, Erik Karlsson and Evgeny Malkin carried for the Pens in this game. Karlsson snipes one again to make it 4-3. And, the Flyers have a little bit of uneasiness going into the third. And suddenly the Pens score on a rush with Evgeny Malkin to tie the game early in the third. Flyers outshot the Penguins 15-4 in the third period, but it just felt like they kept alternating the same 2 lines. Michkov and Kuzmenko did not see the ice, I feel like, for the final 7 minutes of the third period because, the Michkov, Tippett, Couturier line was on the ice for 3 goals. I will say that, so it wasn't their best defensive game. But I don't agree with the fact that you're not playing your best players. It feels like you're playing Dave Hackstall hockey. playing not to lose instead of playing to win and taking those aggressive risks. And it bit the Flyers in the ass. The game goes to overtime. Pittsburgh ends up scoring, and it makes you wonder if they played these guys when they should have in that second half of that third period. Some of their offensive guys like Kuzmenko and Michkov, could this have been a different result? I get the defensive deficiencies of them, but you've got to give them opportunities because they give you opportunities to score. They lose that game 5-4. Then the Winnipeg game, I'm going to be honest with you, I did not catch much of this game, but I will say Ivan Fedotov, what I saw was absolutely lights out. It was probably his best game as a Flyer. Out-dueling the best goalie in the world, or going at least blow for blow with him, and Connor Hellebuck in a low-scoring goalies battle. Went to a shootout, stopped all 3 shots in the shootout. I think he went 31 of 32 in net. Right as people are starting to talk about, do the Flyers potentially need to look at finding another goalie next year to play with Urson? Ivan Fedotov says, hold on a minute. I'm here. You brought me here for this reason. I'm finding my game a little bit. Although, mind you, he hasn't played since the Four Nations break. But you know what? I don't think he has been playing that bad since that spurt he had to begin the year. I still think he has played well. He's had moments, but he's the backup. And, maybe next year you do run Urson and Fedotov again. Maybe you give Urson 60%, Fedotov 40% if you can gain some confidence in this guy. And he can show games like that on a more consistent basis. So, huge shout out to Fedotov. Jamie Drysdale also getting on the board. He had a beauty of a snipe in that game. But, yeah, 2-0 in 1 week. Flyers look good. I had them at 1-2, so they were definitely better than I gave them credit for. So, with that being said, let's wrap this up. We'll move on to the week ahead. Flyers begin a 7-game homestand coming up, starting on Tuesday against the Calgary Flames, welcoming back Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. That'll be cool to see them into the building. And then they got Winnipeg again on Thursday. And then Saturday, they got a matinee against the Seattle Kraken. And then if we want to talk about Sunday, we can. They play New Jersey. But I'll skip that one. We'll probably be having another recording before that Jersey episode. So we'll just do those 3 games. Rick, since you're going to be our guest fill-in for prediction time, why don't you take a crack at this? Why don't you give the Flyers a record this week?
Okay, let's go again. Give me the games, and I'll give you.
All right. And be honest with me. So they're home against Calgary on Tuesday. Then they're home against Winnipeg on Saturday.
Okay,
and then they're home against Seattle on Saturday.
Stop there. It might be Laughton's last game. I think Flyers will be pumped. Calgary, they win.
Okay.
Winnipeg is going to be looking for revenge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you get away with it the second time, so a loss. What's the other game?
And then home against Seattle, it's a matinee game.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, that one, I'll just say a win because I'm on a Flyers podcast, but I don't know. I'm kind of
good man.
It's kind of a toss-up for me.
So here's my breakdown. Tuesday, I think they beat Calgary as well. I think it's a little bit of a higher scoring game. I'll go 5-3. I think Frost and Farabee will be a little pumped to be visiting the Farg for the first time since the trade. It's only been a month. Usually when these type of trades happen this late in the year, you don't see them until the next year. But I guess the timing of the schedule worked out. So I wonder if they do a little something. But I think the team will be a little pumped up. I do think they win that. Thursday, I agree. I think Winnipeg gets a little bit of revenge. I think we get whopped around. I'm going to say we lose that one 4-1. And then Saturday, Kraken. I don't know what it is. Since the Kraken have come into the league, they have not played them well. I'm going to say they win it in overtime, but it's an ugly game, like a 4-3 game.
To be very honest, that's where I was leaning to. Because I don't know, because Montreal also has some trouble with the Kraken.
I don't know what it is with this Seattle team. They've had some weird issues with them since they've come into the league. They've won some games against them. But
same here, but yeah.
So I'll go with a 2-1 record this week. I gave them 1-2 last week, so I'll flip it and go 2-1. And that Seattle game's nationally televised on ABC too. I'm actually surprised about that, but sure, why not? But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this week of Flyera Gonna Flyera. Rick, thank you for filling in predictions without Jamey and Eric here.
My
Both of them
pleasure.
should
My
be back
pleasure.
next week. So next
My
week should
pleasure.
be good.
Yeah.
What's up?
My pleasure as always.
So Eric and Jamey should be back next week. Hopefully we get a trade or two to talk about and dissect on next week's Flyera. And anything else that might happen as well. So with all that being said, thank you all for watching another great episode. We look forward to having you next week. Another great episode, and we'll see you next week on Flyera Gonna Flyera. And with that being said, as always, let's go Flyers.